Hi, Stephanie from Design Plus Code. In this tutorial, we're going to build a sweater shop. This shop will allow our customers to buy sweaters, and they'll also be able to pay with Apple Pay. So let me show you a summary of our application. In this view, the users will be able to shop our 8 sweaters that we offer in our shop, and they can also add a few sweaters to their cart. When they click on the cart icon at the top right corner, they will be redirected to their cart view and they can see all the sweaters that they added to their cart. They can also delete one. And once they're satisfied with the products in their cart, they can check out with Apple Pay. So we'll be integrating Apple Pay in this application. If I click on that, I can see a sheet presentation and I can set up my card. I can also set up my delivery address, and I also see the expected delivery time for my order. Then I can click on Pay Total and I will see the items in my cart. So I have my C sweater, which costs $94, and my Sand sweater, which costs $79. Then I can pay with passcode. And once this is done, you can see that our purchase has been successful and we see a success message here. So this is what we'll build in this tutorial. Since we'll be implementing Apple Pay, you need to make sure that you're under the Apple Developer Program because Apple Pay is a feature only available for developers under that program. If you're not enrolled, you can head over to developer.apple.com/programs/enroll to enroll into the program and have access to many Apple features that you can implement in your SwiftUI applications. The first thing we will need to do is to create our Xcode project. So launch Xcode and you will see a model that appears like this. Click on Create a new Xcode project. Make sure that you're under the iOS tab and select the app under the Application section. Then click on Next and give your product a name. In my case, I will call it Sweater Shop Demo. Make sure to select your team that is under the Apple Developer Program because, as I mentioned before, Apple Pay is only available for developers under the program. The organization identifier is the reverse of your URL. So in our case, since our URL is designcode.io, we will simply reverse it and it will be io.designcode. Then make sure that the interface is SwiftUI and the language is Swift. Usually these two are the default values, so you can simply leave them as is. Then click on Next and choose where you want to save your project on your computer. Then click on Create. This will create your project. The first thing I do when I create a new project is to change my target simulator, and I like to select the iPhone 13 one. Then I will resume my preview in ContentView to make sure that everything is okay. When you see the iPhone 13 on the right side with the Hello World on the screen, that means that you successfully created your Xcode project. Now let's go into the Assets folder and we will be changing the accent color, adding some icons to our application and also adding some images in the Assets folder. So first, let's go to the accent color and select the universal. Then open the inspector panel on the right side and make sure that you're under the Attributes Inspector. In here, for the color, we will change it to label color. By default, the accent color is blue, so you can change it to any color that you like. In my case, I want my accent color to be black. Then let's go to App Icon, and we can close our inspector. Here you can see different empty slots and a size inside of the slot. So that means that you need to create an icon for each size that you see in the slots. Once you created your icon, you can simply drag and drop each icon into their specific slot. And when you build your application either on the simulator or on your device, you'll see the icon that you added here on your device. Now I have added all my icons in my app icon folder. Next, let's add a few sweater images to our application. I suggest you to head over to unsplash.com and to search for a few sweater images. So you can see all the sweater images here and you can get them for free. Once you found a few sweaters, make sure that you rename them so that you can easily reference them later on. So I downloaded my 8 sweaters and I renamed each one with sweater and a number next to it. Then back in Xcode, still under the assets folder, right-click and create a new folder. We will call this folder sweaters. And inside of the sweaters folder, we will drag and drop all our sweater images that we downloaded before. So we'll drag and drop them into the sweaters folder. And you can see that I have all my 8 sweater images here. Great, now we're done with the assets folder in our application. So first things first, because we'll build an application selling sweaters, we'll need to create our product model. So let's right-click the sweater shop demo folder and we'll create a new group. This group will be called models. I'll simply drag it after the content view and then I will right-click on it and create a new file. This file will be a Swift file and we'll call it product. Then let's click on create. And in here, we'll need to create a structure. So struct, and it will be called product, which will conform to the identifiable protocol. This model will tell the program what variables each sweater that we create must have. So first, we'll need to create an ID, which will be a UUID. A UUID is automatically generated by Swift, and it will uniquely identify this item. Next, we also want to have a name for each product, an image, which will be a string, and finally, we want a price, which will be an integer. Now that we created our product model, we need to add some dummy data. So we will be using the 8 sweaters that we added in our assets folder, and for each one, we will create a product instance. So let's create a variable called product list, and it will be an array of product. So let's create a product with parentheses, and we will select the one with only name, image, price. We don't need to set up the ID because the ID is already set up in the model. So the first sweater that I have is an orange sweater. So I will name it orange sweater, and the image will be the name of the image of the first sweater. So in my case, it's sweater 1. So inside of the double quotes, I will write sweater 1. The price is any price that you want, so I will simply write 54. Then let's add a comma, and we'll do the same for all the other sweaters that you added in your sweaters folder. So I added all the remaining sweaters, and I have my 8 sweaters now. Now that we added this dummy data, we will create our product card. So under the sweater shop demo folder, we'll create a new group, and we will call it components. Then I'll simply move it before the models folder and I will right click, create a new file. It will be a SwiftUI view and we'll call this file ProductCard. The product card is this card that you see here, and we will show this when we'll be iterating over all the sweaters from our product list variable. So the product card component will accept one argument, which will be a product, and it will be of product type. Remember to fix the preview by passing a product to it as well. So product will be product list, and we'll take the first item of the array. Then resume your preview to make sure that you don't have any error. And once the preview has been successful, let's build the body of our product card. So let's remove the text hello world and we'll add a Z stack with some alignment to bottom. Inside of this VStack, we'll add an image, and the image will be the product.image string that we added. So you can see that we have our orange sweater image here. However, it takes the whole screen. So let's add the resizable modifier with some corner radius of 20 pixels. And we also want a frame with a width of 180 pixels. We also want this image to be scaled to fit so that it's not stretched like this. However, you can see that it's still stretched. So on the Z stack, we will add a frame with a width of 180 pixels and a height of 250 pixels. Now the image looks better. And we'll also add some shadow with a radius of 3 pixels. Back inside of the Z stack, we will add a V stack. So let's add V stack with some alignment to leading. Inside of this V stack, we will add the text showing the name of the sweater as well as the price. So let's add a text and it will show the product name. Let's make it a bit bold. And we can't really see the text right now, but we'll fix that after by adding a background to our VStack. Below the product name, we will add a string and we'll add product.price and add the $sign. Let's change the font of the price to caption. Great. Now on the VStack, we will add some padding. Next, we'll add a frame with a width of 180 pixels and an alignment to leading. Now we'll add this background blur. With Xcode 13, we can easily add a blur background, so we'll add a background modifier and we'll simply provide the ultra thin material background. And you can see that we have a blur background now. Let's add some corner radius to this VStack of 20 pixels. Great, so we're finished coding the base layer of our product card. However, if we take a look at the final product, you can see that we have a plus button on the top right corner. So we'll need to wrap our current Z-stack in another Z-stack. So simply click on Command on your keyboard and then click on the Z-stack and embed this in a Z-stack. So we'll have one parent Z-stack and one child Z-stack. On the parent Z-stack, we will add an alignment to top trailing. Then right below the first Z-stack, we will add our button. So let's add a button. And for the label of the button, we will add an image. The image will be from SS symbols, and we want to take a plus sign. Let's add some padding of 10 pixels around this image with a foreground color of white, a background of black, some corner radius of 50 pixels so that it makes a perfect circle, and we'll add some padding all around this circle. For the action of the button, we will simply print a message that says, added to cart. Later on, we will change this message with an actual action. Great, now that we completed our product card, we'll iterate over the products array that we created in our product file. So we'll iterate over the product list. Let's create a new group under the sweater shop demo, and we'll name this group views. I'll simply move it before the components folder, and I will drag and drop the content view inside of this folder. In content view, let's remove the text hello world, and we'll add a for each. For each item in our product list, we will get the ID, and what we get in return is a product. So for each product in this list, we will display a product card. And don't forget to pass a product to our product card instance here. So you can see that it created a new simulator for each product because we didn't wrap our for each in a parent group. To fix that, we'll be using the lazy V grid. So click on Command on your keyboard and then click on the for each and select any embed here. I will simply select HStack. So I will keep it as an HStack for now, but we will be changing to a lazy V grid in a few moments. The lazy V grid requires two arguments, so a columns, which is of type grid item array, and a spacing as well. So at the top of our content view, let's create a variable called columns, and it will be equals to an array. Inside of this array, we'll create a grid item with parentheses. And we want our grid item to be adaptive with a minimum width of 160 pixels. We also want some spacing between each item of 20 pixels. Back in the body, we will change the HStack to a lazy V grid. And we'll need to provide a columns value, so it will be the columns variable that we just created. And we also need to provide some spacing of 20 pixels. Now, let's resume our preview. And you can see now that we have all of our sweaters in a grid. Let's add some padding all around our grid so that it doesn't hug the sides of our screen. Great. However, you can see that we're not able to scroll in our view. So to fix that, we will embed our lazy V grid in a scroll view. So click on Command on your keyboard and on the lazy V grid and select anyone. Instead of a VStack, we'll change it to a scroll view. Now you can see that it starts with the top of our array, and we are able to scroll down and see the other sweaters that are at the end of our array. Now, let's implement the navigation view. With the navigation view, we'll be able to add a navigation title, meaning that we'll see a title at the top of this view, and we'll also be able to go from one view to another that we'll implement later on. So still in content view, we will wrap our scroll view in a navigation view. So let's click on comment again on our keyboard and embed this in any stack, and we'll change the stack to a navigation view instead. Now you can see that we have some spacing at the top here, so this is where our title should be. On the scroll view, we will add a navigation title modifier, and we'll provide a text that will say sweater shop. Great, now we see our sweater shop here. However, if you build your application in the simulator and you open the console, you can see that we have a layout constraints warning. This seems to be a bug from Xcode. So to silence this warning, we will add a modifier on our navigation view, which will be navigation view style. And we'll provide the stack navigation view style argument to this modifier. Now let's build our application in the simulator again. And when we open our console, you can see that we don't have any warning anymore. Now, at the top right corner of our content view, we'll also want to add a cart button so that the user will be able to navigate to the cart view and view the items in their cart. So first, we'll create that button as a component. Under the components folder, we will right-click and create a new file. This file will be a SwiftUI view, and we'll call this component CartButton. Then click on Create. This component will accept one argument. So we'll add var number of products, which will be an integer. This will be the number of products that the user has in their cart. Remember to fix the preview by passing a number of products integer to the cart button instance here as well. Now let's code the body of our cart button. So let's remove the text hello world and we'll add a Z stack with an alignment to top trailing. Inside of the Z stack, we will add an image from SF Symbols. So image system name. And let's open the SF Symbols application. If you don't have it, I highly encourage you to download it. So simply search for SF Symbols on Google and you'll easily be able to find the link to download this application on your Mac. Now let's search for a cart icon. And you can see that we have a few carts here. So I will select this one. I will right click and copy the name. And I will provide the cart string as the system name for our image. Let's add some padding to the top of 5 pixels. So right below the image, we'll do if number of products is higher than 0. Then we want to display a text that will tell the user the number of products that they have in their cart. And you can't really see it clearly now, but we have a 1 on top of our cart icon. So let's change the font of this text to caption 2, and let's make it bold as well. Then we'll change the foreground color of this text to white, add a frame with the width of 50 pixels and a height of 50 pixels as well. Now we'll add a background color. So background, and you can select the default red, but I find it a bit too flashy. So I have my own red here, and you can copy this, or you can also select your own red by opening the attributes inspector. Then on the background, you can click on custom, and you can select your own red with the color picker here. And after the background, we'll simply add some corner radius of 50 pixels so that it's a circle. Great, now that we completed our cart button, it's time to add it in our navigation bar. So let's go back to the content view and we'll be calling our cart button here. Before, when we wanted to add an item in our navigation bar, we had to call the navigation bar items modifier. So if I try to add navigation bar items, you can see that here we have a warning that this modifier will be deprecated. And they're telling us to use the toolbar modifier instead. So let's use it. Toolbar. And inside of the toolbar, we'll add our cart button. Don't forget to provide a number of products. For now, we'll simply provide a random number, but we will be using a dynamic number later on. So you can see that we have our cart with one item in our cart hard-coded for now. And one good thing of adding some items in our navigation bar is that when you scroll down in the view, you can see that the cart icon stays here. Now, when the user taps on the cart button, we want to redirect them to a cart view. So we need to create that cart view first. Under the views model, right-click, create a new file, which will be a SwiftUI view, and we'll call it CartView. Then click on Create. In the body of the cart view, we will remove the text Hello World and add a scroll view instead. Inside of the scroll view, we will add a text that will say, "Your cart is empty." On the scroll view, we'll also add a navigation title, which will say, "My cart." Let's also add some padding at the top of this view. We'll update this view later on. Now, let's go back to ContentView and we'll implement the navigation link from ContentView to the cart view. So on the toolbar, we will add a navigation link, and the navigation link has two closures. The first one is the destination and the second one is the label. Let's move the cart button inside of the label, and for the destination, we want to redirect them to our cart view. So we'll call cart view here. Now let's resume our preview in ContentView and then click on the play button. When you tap on the cart button, it should redirect you to the cart view, like this, and you should see a message that tells us that our cart is empty. You can always go back to ContentView to see all the sweaters that our shop offers. Now that we successfully linked our content view to our cart view, we need a file in which we handle everything related to our cart. So a file in which we will add a function to add something to our cart, as well as remove some things from our cart and update the total price of our cart. So let's create a new file under the sweater shop demo folder, and it will be a Swift file. We'll name this file CartManager. In here, we'll create a class called CartManager, which will conform to the observable object protocol so that the changes in this class will be updated instantly in the UI. Next, we need to create two published variables. Remember to add the private set keyword so that this variable can only be set within this class. The first one is the products variable. It will be an array of product. Product is the product model that we created in our product file at the beginning of this tutorial. And let's set it to an empty array initially. The second published variable that we'll create is a total, which will be an integer, and we'll set it to 0 by default. Next, below these variables, we need to add two functions. The first one will be called add to cart, and it will accept a product, which will be of type product. Inside of this function, we will call our products array and append the product that we pass to this function. We'll also need to update the total price of our cart. So to do so, total will be plus equals to product.price. So that means that we're simply adding the price of the product that we pass to this function to the total variable in this class. Now we'll need a second function, which will be called remove from cart. And we also need to pass a product to this function. And we'll reassign the products array. The products array will now be products.filter, and we want to filter out the products where the ID is not equals to the product that we passed to this function, meaning that we only want the products where the ID is not the ID of this product that we passed. Then we'll also need to update our total, and instead of plus equals, we will do minus equals product.price so that we subtract the price of the product that we passed to this function. Now let's connect our cart manager to the UI. First, we'll need to create an instance of cart manager in ContentView. So let's go to ContentView, and at the top, we will create a state object var CartManager will be equals to CartManager with parentheses at the end so that we initialize an instance of CartManager. Then we'll need to add the environment object modifier in two different views at the top. The first one will be in our ProductCard. So at the top, let's add an environment object modifier var CartManager which will be of CartManager type. Remember to add the environment object modifier to our preview and to initialize an instance of CartManager for the preview to work again. The second view in which we need to add an environment object is in the CartView. So let's go there, and at the top, we'll need to add an environment object var CartManager, which will be of CartManager type. Also, don't forget to add the environment object modifier to the preview. Then back in ContentView, we will also need to add the environment object modifier to the instances of ProductCard and CartView. So let's add the environment object, and we will pass the CartManager variable that we created on line 11. So let's simply copy this line, and we will also add it to our CartView. Now, still in ContentView, on the Cart button in the toolbar, instead of hard-coding the number 1, we'll pass the number of products from the products array in our CartManager. So we'll call our CartManager.products, and since this is an array, we can do .count to get the number of items in the array. Now let's go to our product card, and we will change the action of our button. Instead of printing a message in the console that says added to cart, we will call our CartManager.addToCart function, and it requires a product. So luckily, we already have a product that we pass to this component, so we can simply pass that to our function here. Now it's time to test our application. So let's go to ContentView and build your application in the preview here. Another way is to build your application in the simulator and test it on the simulator, but I will test it in ContentView. Remember to click on play in the preview. Let's try to add a few items to our cart. And you can see right now that the one appeared on our cart icon, and now the number of items in my cart has been updated to 2, and I can also add another one, and it also updated to 3. If that also works on your side, then we're good to go. We'll be updating the cart view by displaying the products in the user's cart, because right now it always displays this text that says that our cart is empty. So in cart view, we'll need to display a product row for each product the user added to their cart. Let's create a product row component now. So under the components folder, we will right click, create a new file. It will be a SwiftUI view. We'll call this file product row, then click on create. At the top, we'll need to add the CartManager environment object. So add environment object var CartManager will be of CartManager type. Remember to also add the modifier to your preview so that it works. And then this product row will accept one argument, which will be a product. So var product will be of product type. Remember to also pass a product to your preview so that you don't run into this error of missing argument. We'll call our products list array and take any item from this array. So I'm taking the item at index 3 from my array. Now in the body of my product row, let's remove the text hello world and add an age stack with some spacing of 20 pixels. On this age stack, let's add some padding horizontally, and we'll add a frame with a max width of infinity and an alignment to leading. Inside of the age stack, we will need to display the image, the product name, as well as the product price. We'll also display a trash icon so that the user can delete this product from their cart. So let's first add an image, and it will be product.image. Right now you can see that my image takes the whole screen. So let's fix that. We will add the resizable modifier. Then we'll add the aspect ratio, and the content mode of my aspect ratio will be fit. Then we'll add a frame with a width of 50 pixels with some corner radius of 10 pixels. Now, right below this image, we will add a V-stack. The V-stack will have some alignment to leading and some spacing of 10 pixels. Inside of this V-stack, let's add a text, and we'll display the product name. So product.name. We'll make it bold. And right below this product name, we will display the price of that product. So we'll add a text and we'll add a $sign. Then we'll call the product.price. Outside of this B stack, we will add a spacer so that everything is spaced out. And we'll add a trash icon. So image, system name, and we will use the trash icon from SF symbols. Let's change the foreground color of this trash icon to red. So we'll do foreground color, and you can take the default red from SwiftUI, but I will take the red that we use in our cart button. So I will go there, copy the color, go back to product row, and we'll change the red to this custom red that I picked. On tap gesture of this trash icon, we want to remove this item from the user's cart. So let's add the on tap gesture modifier, and we'll call our CartManager dot remove from cart function. Remember that our remove from cart function requires a product, so we'll simply need to pass the product that we passed to this component. Great, now let's go back to our cart view. Inside of this scroll view, we will add an if-else statement. And we will check if the CartManager.productsArray.count is higher than 0. If the products count is higher than 0, we will want to iterate over the products array and display a product row for each item that we have in our cart. Otherwise, it means that our cart is empty. So let's move the your cart is empty text inside of the else statement. In the if statement, we will do for each, and we will call our CartManager.productsArray. We need to provide an ID, so the ID will be the ID of the product. And we get a product when we are iterating over this array. Then for each product, we will display a product row. Remember that it requires a product, so we'll pass the product that we're iterating through. Right below this for each, we will add an age stack. And this age stack will tell the user their total. So let's display a text that says your cart total is, and we'll add a spacer. Then we'll add another text that will display the total of the user's cart. So we'll call our CartManager.total.00, and we'll make this bold. Let's also add some padding around our age stack. So right now the preview will always say, oh, I made a typo here, so spacer. So if you resume your preview, you will see that your cart is always empty. So let's test that in ContentView. Let's go to ContentView and remember to play your preview. Then let's add a few items to our cart. We'll go there and great. So we have each product in its own product row, and we also have our total here. And we can remove an item and it removes from our cart, and the price is also updated. Now we completed the UI and the basic functionalities of our shopping application. However, we don't want to make this tutorial too long, so we will cover the Apple Pay part in the next section of this tutorial. So see you in the next one.